This is The Great Outdoors with Jason White, exploring the great outdoors in Pennsylvania and beyond. Brought to you by the Mariana Outdoorsman Association and by Wild Acres Farm, Fishery, and Regulated Hunting Grounds. Now, The Great Outdoors with Jason White.
Hello, friends. I'm Jason White. Welcome to The Great Outdoors. Have a great show for you lined up today. I hope you're enjoying the weather. Certainly, it's a little bit crisp here in southwestern Pennsylvania. This kind of been sunny and dreary and everything in between the past few days, but wishing you nothing but a great week and stay dry when you can and dodge those raindrops. I know the sun keeps coming out and it's just fighting rain and sun, back and forth. But I want to start off by giving a special thanks to our sponsors, the Mariana Outdoorsman Association. You can join today, 30% discount for the remainder of the summer. This goes all the way through August. All memberships are currently 30% off. Again, 30% off. Fantastic deal. Huge cost savings. Go to MarianaOutdoors.com. Again, MarianaOutdoors.com, or you can call us at 724-579-0924. And as always, if you ever want to take a tour to see the 2.5 miles of private trout fishing, the approximate 300 acres of upland bird hunting fields, 1,000-yard rifle range, 2 pistol ranges, 5-stand, plethora of other things to do, from campsites, trails, so on and so forth. I'd love to see you. Love to have you. Set up a tour today, MarianaOutdoors.com, or call us at 724-579-0924. Wild Acres Farm, Fishery, and Regulated Hunting Grounds. Come check us out. Got a lot of cool things going on even this summer. If you're somebody that likes to pick flowers, picture taking, etc., events, if you're looking to have a place to host a wedding, parties, corporate events, so on and so forth, graduation party, 10mileco.org, or call us at 724-579-0924. Wild Acres Farm, again, events, parties, you name it, kind of the options are there. Flower picking this summer, fresh veggies, that'll all be kind of firing up probably by mid-July, I'm guessing. Stay posted on that, but the address is 1997 Morey Road, Clarksville, Pennsylvania, 15322. Those are kind of like the summertime things, and then starting in the fall, guided upland bird hunts, archery, whitetail deer hunts, rifle whitetail deer hunts, and then spring of 2025 we will have spring gobbler turkey hunts. Everything's free range, no fence. Can't stress that enough. So if you're somebody that likes free range hunts, fantastic lodging, love to have you. Again, 10mileco.org. That's TENMILECO.org, which stands for 10 Mile Creek Outfitters, which is who manages Wild Acres Farm. Additionally, I want to give a special thanks to Washington County Chamber Tourism and Promotion Agency. They've been nothing but supportive of us, and we ask everybody, please visit Washington County today. That being said, I want to jump in, kind of go over some upcoming events for the Mariana Outdoorsman Association. Thursday, July 11th, which I want to note, all these events are posted on Facebook under the Mariana Outdoorsman Association. Thursday, July 11th, we are hosting an agriculture, conservation, and energy happy hour. Super excited about this. It is a collaboration between the Mariana Outdoorsman Association and the Fayette County Farm Bureau, and it is sponsored by AFP and also the American Oil and Gas Alliance. All the information for this particular event is on Facebook. This event will be held at Kodiak's in Spears. It's from 6 to 9 p.m., free of charge. Anybody that's a member of the Mariana Outdoorsman Association, the Fayette County Farm Bureau, and we welcome with open arms anybody that is a supporter of agriculture, conservation, and energy. Because at the end of the day, we are all connected. We should all be working together. We should all be supportive of one another, and that is exactly what this tremendous networking event is for. So again, Thursday, July 11th, 6 to 9 p.m., Kodiak's and Spears. Happy to certainly have everybody. It's going to be an amazing event, collaboration between the Fayette County Farm Bureau, Mariana Outdoorsman Association, American Oil and Gas Alliance, and AFP. We thank them for their sponsorship of this particular event. Looking ahead, the annual MOA golf outing, which is now a partnership also with the Fayette County Farm Bureau, will be Saturday, July 13th at Cedar Brook Golf Course in Bell Vernon off of Route 51 at the junction of 51 and 70. The event is at 9 a.m. Singles are $125. A team is $500. Sponsorships, donations are greatly appreciated. This particular event is benefiting agriculture initiatives and also conservation projects. Looking to the fall of this upcoming year, tentatively Saturday, October 5th is our first trout stocking of the fall, followed up by in the month of October, we're actually having a gun and cash bash, which will be held October the 19th, which is a Saturday, if everybody wants to mark their calendars, and that will be at 19 North Event Venue in Washington, Pennsylvania. That is also a collaboration. That is a collaboration with the American Oil and Gas Alliance and the Marion Outdoorsman Association, promoting energy and also conservation. So I would love to have everybody. It's going to be an awesome experience for that as well. That being said, looking even farther onto the calendar, if you want to save some other dates, Sunday, December 15th, we're having a one-day fly fishing only trout tournament at the Marion Outdoorsman Association. Details, information, etc. are on the MOA's website or Facebook page, and it will eventually be on the website. So you can go to Mariana Outdoorsman Association of Facebook. All the basics on this particular event are there. But yeah, it's going to strictly be fly fishing only. So we're really excited about that. I want to give a few updates. Really nothing has changed in the capacities of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives legislative update in regards to the Sunday hunting / crop damage packages. I know that it got voted out of committee, and that was an array of bills covering Sunday hunting, Title 34 trespass laws, additional hunter access opportunities to private property, along with some red tag reforms. So all of these things are positives. We're certainly headed in the right direction, and kind of keep your eyes open and ears open as well for these particular things. If you would like to voice your support in any capacity as a resident of Pennsylvania, please reach out to your local state representative and senator. These bills are coming out of the Game and Fisheries Committee for the House of Representatives, and at which, now that it's been passed, it'll end up going on the floor. I have no idea if typically amendments will be introduced. I don't know if they're going to be introduced on the floor or if it'll be passed out of the House and then go to the Senate, and then amendments come from the Senate side. So not really sure at this particular time how that's going to be handled politically in Harrisburg, but that's kind of a little bit of the 50,000-foot view of what's going on. Looking ahead, I know that from the Farm Bureau perspective, we've talked a lot about the Title 18 trespass being a high-valued discussion point in the future about getting that addressed and reformed. Also, the game lands management, which I talked about on my last week's show. And then another particular one is the permitting processes in Pennsylvania. They are lackluster at best, chaotic it probably is a common practice, and they need some TLC is the best way some tender love and care, because it's definitely hurting everybody, and a lot of people don't even realize it or know it. But the permitting programs in the state of Pennsylvania need a total overhaul. They are just really abysmal, and we can do a lot better. But it starts with a conversation. Acknowledge you can't fix a problem if you don't acknowledge you have a problem, and we certainly have a problem. So I can tell you, looking ahead, those are going to be some major topics for us. As we progress forward. I want to really highlight today about predators. And you're probably going to say, well, I've talked about this in the past. I thought it was really important to highlight it right now because as Pennsylvania turkey season is coming to a close, I've been looking at a lot of Facebook groups and a lot of different chats, and I've seen a lot of complaints from folks over the number of turkeys, hearing less gobbles, so on and so forth in that capacity compared to their opinion from years past. And I really want to dive down the rabbit hole of how this is happening, what are some correlating factors, and kind of get you thinking about things that we've talked about on past episodes. But to hear that there's a lot of people voicing concerns, complaints, so on and so forth, it really screams to the root of some of the problems that we've talked about. That being said, I'll dive in we'll start off with habitat. Turkeys are, for anybody that doesn't turkey hunt, turkeys love to roost in the spring. A lot of times they'll roost throughout the entire year when they can, especially when there's leaves on the trees, but they also will lay on the ground. That being said, you certainly, when they're in a roosting condition, you have to have adequate trees for them to actually be able to roost. So giant oak trees, so on and so forth, something with like a 4 to a 6-inch limb that's coming out of it that could support the weight of a 20-pound turkey for them to roost for the whole night. So spaces areas where there are trees that could adequately accommodate what I'm referring to here. So oak woodlots. It doesn't even have to be oaks. I mean, it could be any type of tree in general, but you just have to have adequate, big enough woodlots to accommodate such a thing. Also, got to be ample water in the area. Turkeys are not going to be in places where it's at the tippy top of a mountain per se. They're going to be in places where they can easily, access to different water sources. So these are just things for you to think about. But adequate roosting conditions. So roosting is obviously places they sleep. You got to think about fresh water sources, and that is something we do have ample of in Pennsylvania. I've talked about how golf courses and just man-made reservoirs, etc., have drastically expanded, increasing opportunities. That being said, turkeys are big into they're basically, they mill around eating bugs, different critters, so on and so forth. You have to think about this. With hayfield, we'll talk about hayfields, talking about different farming fields in general. The more type of grass fields that there are, turkeys like to do their nests, lay their nests. They like to graze through those types of places to get bugs, to get the heads off of, the heads off of clover, the heads off of, different species of vegetation. So having places where, one, you have places for them to roost, adequate water sources, places where, we have fields, the variety of fields, and then you need like the marginal habitat. So like a lot of people call it like the fence row areas, or places where you'll see like jagger bushes, you'll see like trees that are maybe 10 to 15 foot tall, that are real thick and gnarly, places that these are exceptionally good places for cover, for them to hide, get out of, for nesting areas especially. So you have to think of it, especially this time of the year. You have roosting, you have nesting, and then you have your places to eat and eat and drink. So good hardwoods or tall trees that are hardy enough to handle some of these really big birds. Some of them can be upper 20 pounds at times, potentially even bigger. But you have the need for roosting positions, you have the need for water sources, you need the need for cover for when it comes to the actual nests, and then you have the need for field spaces, grasslands, so on and so forth, kind of like grazing spaces. And those could even be out in like cornfields, picking through the like through the dirt, picking through grit. It could be things like picking through soybean fields. Now, I'm not saying necessarily eating the actual seed, but a lot of these birds, they pick through grit. They're picking through dirt. They're looking for worms. Like, you name it, they're going after it. It's just like, think of it like a small bird. You know, you got your little robins that land in a field. They're picking through. They see a worm, they pick through it. Well, turkeys will do similar things as well. Just think of it at a much bigger scale. That being said, turkeys are laying they're nesting, ground nesting birds. So they're laying their nests on the ground, and this is where the trouble has begun. Our society has gotten away from trapping. I've talked about this numerous times, and it's factual. It's become a problem in Pennsylvania. It's not just a problem in Pennsylvania. This has become a problem across the United States because there's other states that are dealing with similar issues. We have, due to activist organizations, due to, I would just say extreme policies that kind of have put a bad light on trapping and even hunting as a whole. When you're looking at prospects of the implications of that, the causes and effects, turkey populations are going down. Okay, what are some correlating factors? I talked about the need of habitat and different things like that, which human hands could have a negative implication. Human hands come in and say you have a farm and they go ahead and totally, we'll just say we totally timber out a woodlot. That, if it's a roosting area, that could be a huge impact. If we had farm fields that were once planted with corn, soybeans, it doesn't really matter. Hay fields that were cut regularly. Those were great spaces for turkeys to go and eat, feel safe, get adequate food sources. Once that grows up, turkeys are not the type that they want to be in a jagger thicket walking around necessarily. Will they go through those areas? Yeah, they will. But they like to be able to see. Their strength is they can see and they can hear. So they don't want to be like up close and personal necessarily. They want to be able to get out into fields, to be able to graze, to feel safe, to graze along a wood edge that they could pop in and get to safety very quickly. These are things that all kind of add up. When we talk about the predators, we are not trapping predators. We do not have, when I say we're not trapping predators, we do not have, when we look at deer, we look at turkeys, we look at elk, bears, we look at these species in Pennsylvania. We give out so many tags per year based upon conservation, based upon sustaining and maintaining an adequate herd in those species. So think about that. You have turkeys. We're only allowed to hunt gobblers in the spring. That's for a reason, because if you shoot the hens, then not only are you losing the hens, you're losing all the babies too. It's no different from deer. You're more inclined to want to, clearly from an ecological, an environmental, and a moral and ethical perspective, to shoot them during the fall, because they're not little. If you shoot the mother in a spring, you're potentially killing 2 or 3 deer, which, you know, some people frown upon, feel bad about. However you want to look at it, I understand that there's a counter argument or the counter discussion about, about crop damages and so forth, but that's a totally different topic when we're talking about reproduction, and we're talking about turkeys. The whole concept of why we shoot gobblers and gobblers only is so that way we have more turkeys laying more eggs hatching, that becomes more turkeys for a sustainable turkey population. Pennsylvania, we do allow hens to be shot in the fall. If the populations do not get on a more stable and upward trend, I would say you're probably even going to see that potentially get amended in some capacity sooner than later. Just my opinion, but I could certainly see that that being a change as well down the pipeline. Who knows? But I'm certainly hearing a lot of things that people are seeing these problems and acknowledging that we need some reforms and changes sooner than later. That being said, the predators that I'm going to talk about like right now when we talk about turkeys in the spring with their nests, raccoons, which are probably culprit number one, possums, skunks, red fox, and gray fox. Those are like the number ones that I would put at the peak of the list for this particular conversation. Trailing behind would be coyotes, and then down the road we would discuss raptors. But those five up front, the raccoons, possums, skunks, red fox, gray fox, are priority number one. Why are they so important? Well, they're called nest raiders. And when I say nest raiders, basically think of it like your refrigerator. You open it up and you get eggs out of the carton. Once you crack the egg and put it into the omelet and cook the egg, or even if you drop the egg on the floor, once the egg's busted and open, it doesn't naturally replenish itself. You got to go to the store and get more eggs. Well, think of turkeys in a similar capacity. If a raccoon comes into a nest and fights the mother off and the mother goes off and there's 3-4 eggs there, or maybe even more, whatever it may be, and the raccoon literally busts the eggs open and just eats everything inside, turkeys aren't like chickens. They're not just laying eggs all year long. There are scenarios where there might be a second wave of in the spring where that might take place. Not all the time. So you might have a capacity where maybe a nest gets hit, and then a hen has the opportunity to lay more. That can happen. Typically not, but it can. But that being said, I just want to stress the fact that turkeys are not like chickens, to where it's just, every day, every other day, whatever it may be, every few days there's more eggs coming. It's not that way. You basically have one maximum of 2 shots, and the second opportunity is very, very, very small. But that being said, it's typically you have one opportunity for that nest to be productive and for those eggs to hatch. If the eggs don't even get to hatch, we failed before we started. And this is where the conversation really begins, is we know how many turkey gobbler tags or turkeys we want to target, or we want the herd to be, the flock to be at through the Commonwealth. We know what we're targeting for the deer population. We know what we're targeting for the bear population. We know what we're targeting for the elk population. The elk population is probably the most defined because we know what we have very specifically. We know the numbers, like so on and so forth. That's how they're able to manage it so precisely. A lot of these other species, the other 3 that I referenced, deer, turkey, and bear, a lot of it, I hate to say it, is a guesstimate. Even from that perspective, we're lacking involvement of how we do data collection. We don't do, some people forget to turn their tags in. It happens. So, we don't have voluntary check areas. Butchers aren't classified as check areas. We don't have QR codes on tags. There's just so many little itty bitty things that we could do to get better data. We don't have apps on cell phones to share wildlife reporting or just different things that we see. I've talked about that on past shows. There's just a lot of opportunity to better correlate and to share data that we currently are not doing. But with the really 4 big species, they have a pretty good idea, elk being number 1 for sure, that they know what they have and what they're trying to target to do and the tags that need to be given out. That being said, think about this same conversation. Now shift over here to raccoons, possums, skunks, red fox, and gray fox. I'm saying as of right now, based upon what I know to be true and based upon what I've seen and based upon the numbers of trappers, we do not know what we have in this state. We are sitting here and you're seeing I'm just going to call it the murder scenes. Why aren't we seeing as many rabbits anymore? Why aren't we seeing as many turkeys anymore? Why are these different populations down, so on and so forth? Back in the day, everybody that had a farm had trap lines running around their farms. Why? It was twofold. One, a lot of people had chickens back in the day. They ate off the land. You did not want your chicken's getting eaten by any of these different predators, let alone coyotes and hawks. You did not want your baby sheep, baby lambs, calves. You did not want them getting attacked by coyotes or any other predator, so on and so forth. That being said, people ran trap lines. Also, so they did it obviously for food on their table, but also in the same capacity, pelts back in the day used to be much, much more valuable because it was a more accepted practice in common society. Back to my prior point about these different groups that have basically demonized trapping. By demonizing trapping and getting rid of furs and making it like almost like a negative thing or a negative connotation, it has systemically hurt the environment. It's hurting conservation because think about this. If we never, let's just say that, and don't quote me, but let's just hypothetically say up in Elk County that I'm throwing out hypothetical numbers here, but let's say the elk herd is 200 and our target number is to, get 80 females and 20 of the male elk harvested to get the herd down to 100, and then obviously they'll reproduce, and then this cycle goes on and on and on. Let's just hypothetically say that, oh man, we're hoping that people are going to go and go hunt the elk, but only 20 people go out, and we only get 20 elk. Instead of the number being 100, cut down from 200 to 100, it's only cut from 200 to 180. The next year, we're now going to be up to 250 or 300 because of natural expansion of the population. What's going to happen? You're going to see crop damage. You're going to see the woods you're going to see the herd expanding its footprint because there's not going to be enough food, so it's going to expand. Think of this same premise when it comes to deer. Think of this same premise when it comes to any other big game, including bears, so on and so forth. If you do not keep a balance, if you do not keep a teetering balance of the ecosystem, this is what happens. It can have causes and effects. So now when we look at the turkeys, how do we maintain the population we're trying to maintain? Well, if we are not addressing the predators that are the nest raiders right out of the gate, first piece of predation is the nesting predators. If we do not have a targeted goal of how many of these predators need to be trapped for conservation purposes throughout the Commonwealth, we are failing conservation before we even get started because people's either feelings are getting hurt or people do not want to acknowledge the realities of conservation. If we do not have a target number for how many raccoons need to be trapped in the state of Pennsylvania, possums, skunks, red fox, gray fox, before we even go on to anything else, we failed because we are not giving turkeys and other ground nesting bobwhite quail. I've seen the stories that, we're going to reintroduce bobwhite quail. Guess what? If you do not address the predators very, very sternly and firmly, right out of the gate, the whole nesting and egg process will never happen because they are going to get destroyed before they even have the opportunity to hatch, which I'm going to go on to in a little bit about what's going to happen after they hatch. But right out of the gate, if those predators are not kept in check at a sustainable, ecologically driven, conservation-minded method, you're never going to get a successful hatch. It's basically just like let a raccoon in a chicken coop. Watch what's going to happen. They're going to destroy it. Out in the wild, these are all little mini chicken coops running around with these turkeys. So think of it. You have turkeys. You also have other species. Rabbits, which rabbits do produce more throughout the year, so they're not as, I want to say, as severe to this punishment, but absolutely they from a nesting perspective, they absolutely can come to the same scrutiny and destruction. Bobwhite quail, and there's a plethora of other birds, upland birds, pheasants. I mean, I've had conversations with people about, the habitat's not what it used to be, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it isn't. But, that's a piece of the puzzle. The predators in my opinion, as of right now, are public enemy number one when it comes to conservation. We do not have an adequate understanding of what the population densities are. We do not have an adequate understanding of the impacts and implications. I can tell you, I've been watching, monitoring. I do this for business purposes. Literally watch and can see the negative impacts of predators. Because when you're really, really, really watching it, it's like, wow, your eyes become open to what a huge problem it is. And that is what is scary about it is we're sitting here saying we have a problem as a collective society when it comes to from a conservation perspective, in my view, but we're not willing to address it because certain people are like, oh well, the raccoons have to be protected or the fox have to be protected. Listen, I am in no capacity advocating for the mass destruction of any species in any capacity, because that is just completely and utterly ridiculous for anybody to assert such a notion. What is critical, though, is we have to have balance. That is the entire concept of conservation and the environment, is to have stable balance. And if we are allowing people to lobby, advocate, or whatever that is impacting conservation and now allowing these predators to run and basically destroy other game, it doesn't make any sense to me, because one species isn't getting trapped and being held in check. It's okay for not only them to go and ravage other species, but also it's acceptable for us to harvest deer and bear and elk and turkey. But these other species, we don't want to address the need of why we have to trap more. And you're probably going to say, well, there are trapping seasons. Well, yes, there are. Back in the day, though, pelts used to go for $40 a pelt. Now, some pelts are less than $2. This is a huge problem. People do not want to invest, with inflation and other economic factors, people do not want to invest the time and effort. I firmly believe we need to establish some form of a payment program similar to the dairy industry, how we have the milk markets. We have the milk market, basically, there's buyback programs to keep the milk industry stable. This is critical for economic stability. It's also critical for homeland security, because without food, the United States, if we ever go to war on full scale, will fall. In these same capacities, ecologically, environmentally, and again, conservation-minded methods, it's critical that, even trapping can provide furs, which furs can be clothing, furs can be coats, furs can be hats, furs can be gloves, furs can be boots. There's so many things that are applicable to that whole conversation, and we've basically destroyed those different pieces and parts of our society, of our economy, and that is a major problem. And things just have to be looked at with a bigger lens. People have to look at the domino effects of, we've ignored trapping and we've ignored the need to potentially do some type of an incentive program. We haven't looked at maybe this season should be expanded. Maybe we should look at possibly like a red tag program for crop damages. People that are dealing with raccoons and different predators getting into their chicken coops in the summertime. Currently, we really don't have programs set up to adequately address the collective need of a lot of the issues that I'm referring to. I'm just giving the kind of the tip of the iceberg when I'm talking about turkeys. Now let's kind of shift real quick. Turkey hatches, you have your little poult. It pops out about the size of a baby chicken, not very different, maybe about the size of a baby duck. Again, now we've hatched. We're still extremely susceptible to predators. Realistically, it's going to be a few months before those poults are big enough that they can fly in any capacity, even very short distances, or to soar away. This is when it gets a little bit bigger, larger sized. Let's think of it basically. Let's think of a turkey, a small turkey. Oh, think of like a Cornish hen, something very small, just a couple pounds, baby, like a small chicken. When it's that size, extremely susceptible for, uh, extremely susceptible for coyotes, extremely susceptible for at that point moving forward until they get big enough. There's a window there where aerial predators or raptors are a huge concern. Hawks, chicken hawks, so on and so forth. They will hunt certain species at certain sizes. Now, I will say, to circle back to the nesting predators, coyotes will go after a hen sitting on a nest for sure. Um, a fox, a raccoon, like those different things that I was referring to earlier, they're not necessarily going to kill a full-grown female turkey. I mean, that turkey's either going to fight or it's more than likely going to get away. When it comes to a coyote, though, the coyote's going to be more interested in the fact that that hen is susceptible sitting on there, and it could grab and get a full-blown meal from the full-sized hen. So, like, the first 5 species I gave the reference to are more so about wanting to destroy the eggs. A coyote is going to be more interested in the full-blown turkey itself. All of which are concerning. I think that for me, the nesting predators, based upon what I'm seeing with trapping and the lack of trapping, are the certainly the biggest of concerns that currently exist and are clearly a major issue. But then when you get into these raptors and looking at hawks, looking at Cooper hawks, looking at the red-tailed hawks, I mean, you all drive down the roads. I'm sure whether it's been a roadkill, seeing a hawk on top of a roadkill, seeing a hawk on a light pole, seeing a hawk on telephone poles. Again, apex predators, some do migrate. I can show you places at my own farm where there are numerous hawk nests. These birds are not migrating. These birds have basically set up shop, and this is their home. Similar to Canadian geese. There are a lot of Canadian geese that do migrate and travel. There are a lot of Canadian geese that do not. There's a lot of Canadian geese that have, because of human interaction, that we now have viable habitat. I talked about this in my last episode regarding golf courses, regarding ponds and lakes that have cut grass around them. Ideal situations for Canadian geese. We've basically terraformed and created basically habitats that are extremely conducive to a Canadian goose. So they do not have the need and necessity at that juncture to travel to Canada and back. It is what it is. It's just the natural order of things. When they have what they need with viable habitat, food, safety, security, that's at the root of it. That's truly what matters. And we've created that. But when we sit here and talk about these predators, I just want everybody to think about the fact that we are not setting target goals for the environment, for conservation, for the ecosystem as a whole when it comes to these nesting predators, let alone the bigger conversation of even up to the raptors. We don't have viable data on what we have. We do not have viable data on what our target goals are annually to keep the ecosystem in balance. And because of this, it is very, very clear that we now have a domino effect in a negative capacity that is clearly impacting other wildlife species, reproductive processes in a very unnatural method and mechanism. And it's because of human interaction. Humans have basically been lobbied, pushed, scorned, economic factors to push us away from trapping. And when you have predators that are allowed to reproduce, and in many capacities, a lot of those predators do not necessarily have what I would call predators above them. There's not a lot of things that are necessarily going to go and hunt and kill a possum or a raccoon. Not to say a fox won't, or maybe a few fox potentially. Certainly, it's plausible for a coyote, but you're talking more. You're talking larger species, mountain lions, potentially, depending on where you are, like a lynx in the United States. It's just not something. A raccoon isn't necessarily something that is raccoon, possums, skunks. They're just not a ton of predators that are going to necessarily get them. And sad part about it is things like coyotes, and I've preached about this a lot. A rabbit doesn't have much defense mechanisms. A rabbit is like easy pickings for the general predator population. We sit here and say, oh, well, the coyotes are going to go and get the baby deer. Well, yeah, that's great. It seems like that probably happens in very small quantities, but these other species are much easier pickings when that comes to baby poult turkeys that are, let's say 6-8 inches high, or full-grown rabbits, small rabbits, bobwhite quail. The list could go on and on and on. But we've definitely been seeing the negative implications of not establishing proper nesting predator, I would say, numbers, not maintaining them in a better facet to keep the ecosystem in balance, and you're seeing tremendous amounts of negative impacts because of it. So, I just want everybody to think about these things. Think about, what pelt prices used to be, what they are. What have you seen, that's changed? Fur coats are like a thing of the past. Shoes, gloves, so on and so forth. Just so much has changed in that capacity, and it's something. Sometimes some things from the past need brought back, and if this could help us to better maintain the environment, conservation as a whole, there's certain capacities that we need to open the book back up and start reading that story again, because we're headed down a path that's definitely trickling in a negative when we should be at a minimum stable or headed up in a positive trajectory. But hey, please think about it. We're going to keep continuing the conversation next week. Please join the Marion Outdoorsman today, MarionOutdoors.com, Wild Acres Farm. Come pick some flowers or have a fun-filled event. 724-579-0924, 10milesco.org, and special thanks to Washington County. I'm Jason White. This is Great Outdoors, and have a great week, everyone.